Hey guys, tonight we are going to a place where death isn't an ending, but a transformation. We're traveling to a community where the greatest act of love for someone who has passed on is to welcome them back, to make their essence a literal part of you, ensuring their soul never has to face the cold, lonely darkness of the grave alone. Imagine you're there, right now. You're not in a city of stone and steel, but a small village of woven grass and wood, perched precariously on the steep, green shoulders of a mountain range. This is the eastern highlands of New Guinea, a place so isolated it feels like a separate world, a pocket of time, untouched by the ticking clock of the outside. The air is thin and cool, carrying the sweet, loamy scent of damp earth and the wood smoke from a dozen cooking fires. A perpetual mist clings to the valleys below, a soft, white ocean that laps at the edges of your world, making it feel like you live on an island in the sky. Your bare feet know the texture of every path, the slickness of moss on stone, the soft gave of the soil and the sweet potato gardens that cling to the mountainside. Life here is a constant rhythmic cycle of planting and harvesting, of storytelling and ritual. Your home is a circular hut, windowless and warm, the air inside thick with the familiar smell of smoke and sleeping bodies. This is your whole world, a tight-knit circle of family, of kin. And in this world, where spirits are as real as the rain and the ancestors watch over you from the whispering trees, the lines between life and death are beautifully, terrifyingly blurred. It's a place where the phrase, "you are what you eat," is a profound spiritual doctrine. Honestly, given the circumstances, you probably wouldn't survive this. Not because of the danger, but because of the immense crushing weight of a love so absolute it demands to be consumed. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Comment your city and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your name is not important. What is important is your role. You are a daughter, a niece, a future mother. You are a link in a chain that stretches back through generations, a chain of souls held together by blood and memory. From the time you were a small child, sitting at your grandmother's knee, you have been taught the truth of the world. You learned that when a person's body ceases its breath, their spirit, their amahi, is not extinguished. It lingers, confused and frightened, hovering near the shell it once called home. To leave that body to the earth, to let it be devoured by worms and rot, is the ultimate act of cruelty. It would be like abandoning a child in the forest at night. The spirit would be lost, condemned to wander the misty wilderness alone, or worse, be captured by a rival tribe's sorcerer. Your duty, your sacred responsibility, is to prevent this. It is an act of love, of rescue. You must provide a new home for the Amahi, a warm and loving vessel where it can continue to live, to contribute, to be part of the family. That vessel is you. Your people are the four, and this practice is the bedrock of your society. It is not something you question. It is as natural as breathing. The men who must remain strong for warfare and hunting do not partake. Their role is different. They handle the public mourning, the ceremonial displays of grief and anger. But the true work, the quiet, intimate, and essential work of shepherding the soul, falls to the women and children. It is your privilege. It is your burden. You remember watching years ago as your mother and aunts prepared the body of your great-uncle. There was no horror in the room, only a profound and focused sorrow. Every action was deliberate, steeped in reverence. They spoke to him in soft tones, reassuring him that he was not being abandoned, that he would soon be home again. You learned that day that every part of a person holds a different piece of their essence. The hands hold their skill and dexterity, the muscles hold their strength, the feet their ability to walk the steep mountain paths, and the brain holds their wisdom, their memories, their very personality. To consume a part of your loved one is to inherit a piece of their spirit. A young boy might be given a piece of a great hunter's thigh to make him strong and swift. A woman struggling with a craft might be given the hands of a master weaver. It is a beautiful, practical form of immortality. The outside world, you've heard whispers, sees this differently. They have a word for it, a word that drips with judgment and disgust, but they don't understand. They bury their dead in cold, lonely boxes. sealing them away from the sun and the family, abandoning them to the slow, silent dissolution of the earth. To you, that is grotesque. That is a true horror. What you do is an act of reclamation. You are cheating death. You are keeping your family whole. As you sit by the fire tonight, watching the embers glow like fading stars, you feel the presence of those who came before you. Your grandmother's patience is in your hands as you weave a grass skirt. Your uncle's good humor bubbles up in your laughter. You are not just one person, but a living vessel of many. You are a library of souls, a walking, breathing testament to the love that binds your clan. The mist is rolling in from the valley, swallowing the world in its soft, gray embrace. And you are safe. You are whole. You are surrounded by family, both living and living within. And you know, with a certainty that settles deep in your bones, that when your time comes, you will not be abandoned to the worms. You too will be welcomed home. The peace of the evening is fragile, easily broken. And tonight, it shatters. It doesn't happen with a crash, but with a quiet, final exhalation of air. The sound is barely a whisper, but in the hushed confines of the hut, it is as loud as a thunderclap. For days, your grandmother has been shrinking, her presence in the world receding like the tide. You've sat with her, holding her hand, a hand that once felt so strong and capable, now like a bundle of dried twigs wrapped in paper-thin skin. You've listened to her breathing become a shallow, rhythmic struggle, a sound that has woven itself into the fabric of your days and nights. And now, that rhythm is gone. The struggle is over. For a single suspended moment, there is only silence, a heavy, absolute stillness that presses in on you, thick and suffocating. You look at her face, her eyes closed. The deep lines etched by a lifetime of laughter and worry suddenly smooth, serene, and terribly, terribly empty. She is no longer here. The vessel remains, but the Amahi, her spirit, her essence, has departed. You feel it? A sudden coldness in the air, a sense of dislocation, as if the room itself is holding its breath. Her spirit is now out there, untethered and alone in the vast, misty darkness. The silence is broken by a single, piercing cry. It tears from your mother's throat, a raw, animal sound of pure loss. It is a signal. The dam of quiet sorrow breaks, and the hut is flooded with the sounds of unrestrained grief. Your aunts, your cousins, you join the chorus. Wailing is not just an expression of pain, it is a duty. It is the sound that honors the dead, that tells the spirit world a great soul has been lost from your hearth. You keen and cry, rocking back and forth, the tears hot on your cheeks. This is the first part of the ritual, the chaotic, public outpouring of love and anguish. Soon the men of the village arrive, their faces grim. They carry spears, not for hunting, but for ceremony. They stomp the ground outside the hut, their voices raised in angry, grieving chants, challenging the spirits or sorcerers who might have stolen her life. This is their way. They confront death with anger and strength, creating a perimeter of masculine energy to ward off evil. But your work is inside. As the wailing continues, you move, almost automatically. Your body remembering traditions, your mind is too clouded with grief to fully process. You and the other women begin to smear your skin with gray, wet clay from the riverbank. The mud is cold against your skin, a stark physical reminder of the coldness of death. It is a costume of mourning, a way to show the world and the spirits that you are diminished, that you share in the earthbound fate of the departed. You are no longer yourself. You are a mourner. You are a vessel of the community's sorrow. Some of the older women, in their agony, will take sharp stones and scratch lines on their arms or beat their chests. It is a way of making the internal pain external, of showing the depth of their love. You look at your grandmother's body lying on her sleeping mat. There is an urgency that hums beneath the surface of the chaos. You cannot wait long. The longer the body lies inert, the further the Amahi wanders. It could lose its way, forget the path home. It must be attended to. It must be prepared. Her journey is not over, and you are her guide for this next, crucial step. Hours pass in this fever pitch of mourning. The sun rises, but the mist in the valley is so thick, it's as if the world is still asleep. The men's chanting eventually subsides. Their part in this is, for the moment, over. They will not participate in what comes next. They will not witness it. This is women's work. Slowly, the chaotic wailing softens into a low, continuous moaning, a hum of sorrow that fills the small space. Your mother looks at you, her eyes red-rimmed but clear, her expression conveying a world of shared understanding. It is time. The public mourning is over. The private, sacred work must begin. You and the other women of your close family circle gather around your grandmother. The air shifts again, from chaotic grief to a focused, solemn purpose. You are no longer just crying for your loss. You are now the custodians of a soul. You are about to perform the most profound act of love your culture knows. You look down at her still form, the woman who taught you how to garden, how to weave, how to be, the woman who told you the stories of the ancestors, and you know that you are not losing her. You are preparing to welcome her home, into the living memory of your own body. The weight of the moment settles upon you, heavy and real. This is no longer a story she told you. It is your story now, and you must not fail her. You reach out a trembling, clay-covered hand. Your hand, trembling slightly, rests on your grandmother's shoulder. It is cool to the touch, the warmth of life, already a fading memory. An aunt, her face a mask of serene focus, places her hand over yours. Her grip is firm, reassuring. She nods, and you understand. The time for tears has passed. The time for meticulous sacred work has begun. There is a quiet efficiency to the women's movements now, a shared knowledge that flows between them without words. This is a craft, a final act of midwifery, not for a birth into the world of light, but for a rebirth into the world of the family's soul. The first step is a final bath. You help to carry her to the stream, the water shockingly cold as it rushes over your ankles. You wash her limbs, her torso, her face, using large, rough leaves to scrub away the lingering traces of her long illness and the dust of her deathbed. The act is intimate, tender. It is the last time you will ever care for her in this way. Each touch is a memory. You wash the hands that taught you to weave, the feet that led you on foraging trips into the deep forest, the brow that you soothed when she was in pain. You are not just cleaning a body, you are polishing a sacred vessel, preparing it for its final, holy purpose. Back inside the hut, away from the prying eyes of the uninitiated, the true work commences. Your aunt hands you a knife, not a metal one from the traders who occasionally pass through, but one of traditional sharpened bamboo, its edge keen enough for this delicate task. She guides your hands, showing you how to follow the natural lines of the body. You are not hacking or cutting in anger. You are deconstructing. You are carefully unmaking the physical house she lived in so that her essence may be set free and welcomed into a new one. The language your aunt uses is one of reverence. You are not severing limbs. You are releasing the arms from their duty to carry and freeing the legs from their need to walk. It is an anatomy lesson in love. With each step, you separate the muscle from the bone. The flesh is carefully sliced and wrapped in large, waxy leaves, tied with vines into neat parcels. This is a process you have seen from a distance, but to be part of it is different. It is a strange and profound intimacy. You are touching the very substance of a person you loved. There is no sense of violation. In this hut, surrounded by the low humming of your kinswomen, the act is transformed. It is holy. You feel a strange connection to your grandmother, closer than ever before, as you help to map the physical geography of her life. While you and your mother work on the limbs, your aunt, the most experienced among you, tends to the torso and head. She works with a focus that is almost prayerful. She knows what must be kept and what must be discarded. She carefully removes the gallbladder, its contents dark and bitter. "We do not eat this," she explains softly, her voice the only sound besides the scraping of bamboo on bone. "This holds the anger and the bitterness. We let the earth take that." She sets it aside to be buried later, a small, potent parcel of negativity that will not be allowed to enter the family. It is a reminder that you absorb not just the person, but their qualities, and you must choose wisely what to preserve. Meanwhile, younger cousins have been preparing the mumu, the earth oven. They have dug a shallow pit and lined it with large stones, building a roaring fire on top. They have also gathered thick stalks of bamboo, cutting them into segments, each one a natural, hollow cylinder. These are your cooking pots. As you finish preparing each parcel of leaf-wrapped flesh, it is placed inside one of the bamboo tubes. When the fire has burned down, leaving the stones glowing with heat, the cousins use long wooden tongs to arrange the bamboo segments in the pit. Water is poured over the hot stones, and a huge cloud of steam erupts with a loud hiss, enveloping the entire area in a thick, white fog. More leaves and a mound of earth are quickly piled on top, sealing the oven. The work is done. You stand back, your body aching, your hands stained, your mind in a state of strange calm. The sun is beginning to dip below the jagged peaks of the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. A quiet crowd has gathered. The rest of your family, your neighbors. The chaotic wailing of the morning has been replaced by a communal, patient silence. All eyes are on the mound of earth from which a steady plume of steam now rises, carrying a unique, savory aroma into the cool evening air. You have taken apart her body, and now the earth and fire are transforming it. You have fulfilled the most difficult part of your duty. Now, you must simply wait. You sit with your mother, your hands clasped together, and watch the steam rise like a prayer into the twilight. You are exhausted, hollowed out by grief and effort, but you are also filled with a sense of profound purpose. You have honored her. You have cared for her. And soon, the final act of love will begin. The world shrinks to the space around the steaming mound of earth. Twilight has bled into a deep, star-dusted darkness, and the only light comes from a newly kindled fire nearby, its flames dancing and casting long, flickering shadows. The waiting is not empty. It is filled with a quiet, humming energy. Low voices murmur around you, sharing small stories of your grandmother. An uncle recounts her stubbornness in a negotiation over a pig. A cousin remembers the specific lullaby she used to sing. It is a tapestry of memory woven in the darkness, a final oral eulogy before the ultimate act of remembrance. You listen, letting the words wash over you, each story adding another layer to the complex soul you are about to welcome home. Finally, your aunt rises. Her silhouette against the fire is imposing, a figure of ancient authority. "It is time," she says, her voice clear and steady. The quiet talk ceases. Two women step forward with long, sturdy sticks and begin to carefully push away the top layer of earth and leaves from the mumu. A fresh, dense cloud of steam billows into the night air, thicker and more fragrant than before. It carries the scent of hot stone, damp earth, cooked greens, and something else, something uniquely savory and deeply familiar. It is the scent of the feast. The blackened bamboo tubes are carefully lifted from the pit, hot and slick. They are laid out on a bed of fresh leaves. The women work with a quiet precision, using small, sharp stones to split open the bamboo cylinders. Inside, nestled in their wilted leaf wrappings, are the portions. The distribution begins, and it is as formal as any ceremony. Your aunt, who holds the lineage of the clan in her mind, oversees it all. She knows who needs what. A small piece of thigh muscle for a boy who is growing into a hunter. A knuckle from a finger for a woman famed for her intricate string figure games, passing her dexterity to her granddaughter. Nothing is random. Every piece has a purpose, a destination, a new life to enrich. She comes to you. In her hands is a small, warm parcel. "For you," she says, meeting your eyes, her hands, "so that you will always remember how to be gentle and how to be strong." You take the offering. It is warm in your palms, the heat seeping into your skin. You unwrap the leaves slowly. Inside is the small portion of flesh from your grandmother's palm, cooked to a pale, tender state. Beside it, another woman places a small pile of crushed ginger and rock salt, a precious commodity traded from distant tribes. This is not for flavor in the way the outside world would understand it. It is to purify, to honor the vessel. You look around. The other women and the older children are all holding similar parcels. The men stand at a respectful distance, their mournful chanting having given way to a silent, watchful vigil. They are the guardians of this space, but they will not enter this sacred circle of consumption. This communion is for you. You lift the portion to your lips. You pause. This is the threshold. In this moment, she is still other. The instant you consume this, she will become part of you. You close your eyes, shutting out the flickering firelight, the faces of your family. You focus on her spirit, her amahi, which you can feel hovering, waiting. You are its anchor. You are its home. You place the food in your mouth. You chew slowly, deliberately. The texture is soft, fibrous. The taste is subtle, mingled with the sharpness of the ginger and the earthiness of the salt. But you are not focused on the physical sensation. Your mind is turned inward. You are consuming memory. You are absorbing love. With each motion of your jaw, you are breaking down the last barrier between the living and the dead. You are performing the ultimate act of defiance against loss, against decay, against the finality of the grave. You are not destroying her. You are preserving her in the most permanent way you know how. You swallow. A strange warmth spreads through your chest. A feeling that has nothing to do with the temperature of the food. It is a sense of completion, a feeling of rightness. The gnawing emptiness of grief is replaced by a quiet, solid presence. She is no longer gone. She is here, not as a ghost, not as a memory recalled, but as a living part of your own being. You open your eyes. The world looks the same, but it feels different. You feel stronger, calmer. The chain of your lineage has been reforged, another link added, and it runs directly through you. Later, as the fire burns down to glowing embers and the village settles into a deep, exhausted sleep, you lie on your mat. The bones, stripped clean, have been gathered. They will be given their own ritual later, ground into powder or placed in a sacred bundle, another way of keeping the ancestors close. But the flesh, the life force, has been returned to the clan. You place a hand on your stomach. It feels different tonight, not just full, but whole. You close your eyes, and in the quiet darkness of your own mind, you can almost hear a familiar, gentle voice. You are not alone. You will never be alone again. Your grandmother is home. Months slide by, seasons turning not by the pages of a calendar, but by the subtle shifts in the angle of the sun and the rhythm of the rains. Life settles into its familiar, comforting cadence. The intense, razor-sharp focus of the morning ritual has softened, replaced by a new kind of normal. A quiet integration of your grandmother's spirit into the fabric of your own. Her presence is a constant, gentle hum beneath the surface of your thoughts. When you are in the gardens, your back bent under the high-altitude sun, your hands deep in the rich soil tending to the sprawling sweet potato vines that form the bulk of your diet, you feel her patience. You remember how she taught you to read the language of the leaves, to know when to plant and when to harvest. Now, it is more than a memory. It is an instinct you seem to have inherited. In the afternoons, when the women gather to weave, your fingers move with a newfound confidence, twisting the fibers into intricate patterns. You feel her skill flowing through your own hands, a legacy more tangible than any object she could have left behind. This is the beauty of your way of life. Nothing is ever truly lost. Wisdom is recycled. Strength is passed down. Love is reabsorbed. You are a living library. And a new wing has just been opened within you. You see it in others, too. Your cousin, a quiet, timid boy, now carries the stories of his grandfather, a renowned orator. He speaks with a new authority in the evenings, and the older men nod, hearing an echo of the past in his voice. An aunt who consumed a part of her sister now laughs with her sister's distinct, booming joy, a sound that everyone had thought was silenced forever. Your community is a fluid, dynamic entity, a single body with many limbs, constantly regenerating itself from its own past. You are all a mosaic of the dead. In your mother's hut, tucked safely in a woven bag, is the jawbone of her father. Sometimes she takes it out, running her thumb along the smooth, worn bone, speaking to it in quiet tones. It is not a morbid relic. It is a point of connection, a physical anchor to a beloved spirit. In other huts, you see skulls, cleaned and sometimes decorated with clay and feathers, presiding over the hearth like silent, watchful guardians. This is the other half of the practice. The flesh is taken in to preserve the immediate life force, the amahi. The bones are kept to honor the physical structure, the memory of their presence in the world. Between these two rituals, nothing is given over to the meaningless oblivion of rot. Every part of a person is cherished, protected, and utilized. Life is secure in its circularity. It is a comforting thought as you chew on your evening meal of steamed sweet potatoes and foraged ferns, the simple, repetitive diet that sustains you. The feasts are the rare exception, sacred punctuations in a life of humble subsistence. But one afternoon, as you sit weaving with a group of women, A discordant note is played. You are watching Alara, one of the oldest and most respected women in the village. Her hands, wrinkled and wise, have taught nearly everyone to weave. She is a living encyclopedia of patterns and techniques, a woman who has welcomed dozens of ancestors into her being over her long life. As she reaches for a strand of fiber, you notice it. A tremor, a tiny, barely perceptible shaking in her right hand. The fiber slips from her grasp. She frowns, picks it up, and tries again. The tremor is still there. Another woman laughs gently. Ilara, your hands are tired of working. They want to rest. Ilara forces a smile. But you see a flicker of frustration in her eyes. They are just cold, she says, tucking her hand into her armpit to warm it. The moment passes. The conversation shifts. But you don't forget the image of that slight, uncontrollable quiver. A week later, you are walking a familiar path down to the stream. Ilara is ahead of you. It's a path she has walked 10,000 times, her feet knowing every stone and root. But today, she stumbles. Her ankle turns on a stone she should have easily avoided, and she pitches forward, catching herself on a tree just before she falls. Again, it is dismissed. A slippery patch, someone says, helping her up. We are all getting clumsy in our old age. No one thinks to connect these two small incidents. Why would they? They are mundane, trivial. Old age brings stiffness to the joints and a dimming of the senses. It is the natural way of things. Perhaps a minor curse from a jealous neighbor, something a shaman can easily remedy with the right chance. But as you watch Ilara compose herself, her face a mixture of embarrassment and confusion, you feel a small, cold knot tighten in your stomach. Something feels wrong. She seems not just old, but unsteady, as if the very ground beneath her feet has become unreliable. The perfect sacred cycle of your world, the beautiful system of love and remembrance, has always felt infallible. But now, watching Ilara's trembling hand and faltering step, you see the first tiny crack appear in that perfect circle. The small crack in your world widens into a chasm. What began as a subtle tremor in Ilara's hand is now a relentless storm raging within her body. The shaking is no longer confined to her fingers. It has consumed her arms, her legs, her entire frame. When she tries to stand, her limbs jerk with a will of their own, as if puppet strings were being pulled by a cruel and clumsy hand. She can no longer walk the familiar paths of the village. She cannot hold a cup to her own lips. Her body, once a proud vessel of ancestral knowledge, has become her prison. Her eyes, once sharp and knowing, are now wide with a constant simmering panic. She is a passenger in a runaway canoe, and no one knows how to stop it. The village responds in the only way it knows how. This is not a sickness from the body. It is an attack on the spirit. It is sorcery. The men gather in grim circles, whispering of Guama, the deadly ritual performed by enemies. A sorcerer, they say, must have gotten hold of something belonging to Ilara. A lock of her hair, a fingernail clipping, food she had touched. They believe this personal item has been bundled with magical leaves and buried in a cold, damp place. And as the bundle rots, so does Ilara's body. Diviners are consulted. They throw stones and read the patterns, searching for a face, a name, a direction from which the attack came. Accusations begin to fly, hushed at first, then with more venom. Old rivalries with neighboring clans are remembered. Suspicion turns inward, poisoning the trust between families. You help to care for Ilara, bringing her mashed sweet potatoes and trying to spoon them into her mouth. It is a difficult, messy task. Her head thrashes from side to side, and her teeth chatter uncontrollably. One afternoon, as you are trying to help her, she becomes overwhelmed with frustration. A tear escapes her eye and rolls down her cheek. You reach to wipe it away, murmuring words of comfort. But then it happens. A sound bubbles up from her chest, a high-pitched, startling noise. It is a giggle. The giggle becomes a cascade of uncontrollable laughter, loud and piercing and utterly devoid of joy. Her head is thrown back, her body shaking with the force of these hollow peals, even as tears of pure misery stream from her eyes. You freeze, your hand hovering in midair. The other women in the hut fall silent, their faces pale with shock and fear. The sound is unnatural, terrifying. It is the sound of grief wearing the mask of happiness. It is the most profoundly unsettling thing you have ever heard. This is the moment the sickness gets its true name. Kuru. It is the foreword for trembling, but it also carries the echo of fear itself. To the outsiders who will one day come, they will call it the laughing sickness. But for you, there is no sickness here, only a curse that can make a woman laugh as her soul is being torn apart. Ilara's decline accelerates. She enters the next stage, the sedentary stage. She can no longer even sit up on her own and has to be propped against the wall of the hut, a fragile doll with thrashing limbs. Her speech slurs into incomprehensible babble, punctuated by those terrifying, spontaneous bursts of laughter. She is here, but she is also gone, lost in the chaotic prison of her own nervous system. And she is no longer the only one. You first notice it in another woman, Maita, who was one of the closest friends of your grandmother. It starts the same way, a small tremor in her hand as she tries to shell beans, then a stumble on a flat path. Soon, she too is housebound, her body beginning its violent, rebellious dance. Then another woman, younger this time, a mother of 2 small children. The pattern is undeniable and horrifying. It is only the women and the older children who are falling ill. The men, who stood apart from the sacred feast, are untouched. They continue their search for the sorcerer, their rituals becoming more frantic, but the curse continues to spread, defying all their efforts. It is as if a poison is moving silently through the veins of the community, but it only targets those who performed the ultimate act of love. You sit by the fire one night, the terrible, hollow laughter of Ilara echoing faintly from her hut across the village. You look at your own hands. They are steady. You feel strong. You feel your grandmother's presence within you, a comforting warmth. But for the first time, a truly blasphemous thought takes root in your mind, a thought so terrible you barely dare to acknowledge it. You picture the feast, the steam rising from the mumu, the leaf-wrapped parcels, the solemn act of communion. You see the faces of the women who shared in that meal with you. Maida was there. The young mother was there. You were all there. You try to push the thought away. It is unthinkable. The ritual is the foundation of your world. It is the source of your strength, your connection to the past, your victory over the finality of death. It cannot be the source of the curse. It must be sorcery. It must be. But as another peal of that empty, joyless laughter cuts through the night, the question hangs in the air, a poisonous vapor. What if the love that is supposed to save your soul is actually what is destroying your body? The fear that was once a whisper in your mind is now a constant scream that echoes through the valley. Your village is no longer a place of rhythmic work and communal warmth. It is a house of the dying. The cheerful sounds of children playing and women chatting have been replaced by a new terrible soundscape. The chattering of teeth from one hut, a low, continuous moan from another, and, worst of all, the sudden sharp bursts of that empty, horrifying laughter. It can erupt at any time, from any direction, a constant reminder of the curse that has taken root in your community. Kuru is no longer just a name for a sickness. It is the name of the monster that is eating your people from the inside out. The paranoia over sorcery has curdled into open hostility. Trust, the very bedrock of your clan, has crumbled. No one leaves their personal scraps unattended. A misplaced hair could be a death sentence. Fights break out over imagined slights. The men, driven by a desperate, impotent rage, launch violent raids on neighboring villages, convinced the sorcerer resides there. They return not with a culprit, but with fresh wounds and deeper enmities, and still the women sicken and die. The social fabric of your world is tearing at the seams. You see the effects everywhere. The gardens, once the domain of the women, are becoming neglected. The sweet potato vines growing wild and untended. The looms in the family huts sit silent, gathering dust, as the hands that work them are now stilled by tremors or death. Your village is slowly becoming a village of men and young children, a generation of women being erased before your eyes. At its peak, the dying is so constant it feels as if a war is being waged against your mothers and sisters by an invisible enemy. Ilara's journey with the curse comes to its inevitable, tragic end. You sit with her in her final days, a helpless witness to the disease's ultimate cruelty. She has passed beyond the shaking, beyond the laughter. Now she lies perfectly still, unable to move, unable to swallow, unable to speak. She is a prisoner in the most absolute sense, her vibrant spirit locked inside a body that has completely ceased to obey. Her eyes are open, and you don't know if she is aware, if she can hear you, if she is terrified. You and the other women try to keep her clean, to wet her lips with water, but you are just tending to a shell. She dies not from the shaking, but from starvation, her body quietly wasting away until her breath simply stops. Seeing her final stillness is a different kind of horror. The laughing sickness doesn't just kill you, it hollows you out first, leaving nothing behind. Her death presents a new, terrible crisis. And it is a crisis that repeats itself just weeks later, when Maida, your grandmother's friend, also succumbs, her body finally falling silent after months of violent tremors. Now, your people face an impossible choice. The bodies lie in the huts, and the spirits, the Amahi, are hovering, waiting to be rescued. Your most sacred law demands that you perform the mortuary feast. To bury them, to let them rot, is to condemn them to an eternity of lonely wandering, a fate you have always considered worse than death itself. It is the ultimate betrayal. But the blasphemous thought you once had is now an open whisper among the women. The pattern is too clear. The feast and the curse are linked. The very act of love and remembrance seems to be the vehicle for this horror. To eat the flesh of the dead now feels like inviting the monster into your own home, into your own body. The arguments are frantic, terrified. The elders and the men, untouched by the sickness, insist that tradition must be upheld. To abandon the ancestors now, they argue, would be to invite even worse curses upon you. It is a failure of faith that has angered the spirits. But the women, the ones who watch their friends and sisters die, the ones who check their own hands for tremors 100 times a day, are paralyzed with fear. You are caught in the middle of this storm. You feel the ancestral pull, the deep-seated love for your grandmother that still resides within you, a warmth that is now mingled with a cold dread. Every time you stumble on a root, your heart leaps into your throat. Every time a cup slips from your fingers, you freeze, watching your hands for a shake that does not come yet. The love you consume now feels like a seed of terror, dormant inside you, waiting for its season to sprout. The body of Maita lies on her sleeping mat, and the entire village is frozen in a state of spiritual and existential panic. To honor the dead is to risk death. To save yourselves is to betray the dead. Your entire worldview, the elegant circular logic that has sustained your people for generations, has led you to this impossible, tragic dead end. As the elders argue and the women weep, a new sound reaches you from the edge of the forest. It is not the cry of a bird or the rustle of a pig. It is the sound of heavy, rhythmic footsteps and strange, clipped voices speaking a language you have never heard. They are sounds from another world, and they are getting closer. They emerge from the tree line like spirits, but not of your world. Their skin is unnervingly pale, the color of grub worms or peeled yams, and it burns red in the places where the high-altitude sun touches it. They are tall and walk with a stiff, awkward gait, their bodies encased in strange, drab-colored skins that make rustling sounds as they move. These are the patrol officers for the Australian administration that claims unseen authority over your mountains. And with them is another kind of man. He is less rigid, but his eyes are sharper, more intense. They dart everywhere, taking in the sick, the healthy, the huts, the fire pits. He carries a small book in which he is constantly making marks. He is a man who collects facts, a doctor. Their presence shatters the paralysis of your village. The arguments over Maida's body cease, replaced by a unified, suspicious silence. These men, these Kiaps and their strange companion, represent a power you do not understand. Their language is a series of harsh, clipped sounds, and they communicate through a translator from a distant coastal tribe whose dialect you barely comprehend. Their questions are baffling. They ignore the talk of sorcery completely. Instead, they want to know who is related to whom. They want to know what you eat. They point at the sick women, and the doctor's questions, filtered through the translator, become relentless. When did the shaking start? Who do they spend time with? What did they eat a month ago, a year ago? The doctor, a man driven by a consuming, almost manic curiosity, seems particularly interested in your family. He learns that your grandmother died, that you held a feast. His eyes light up with a disturbing intensity. He draws a chart in his little book. Your name's written in his strange script, with lines connecting you to your grandmother, and to Alara, and to Maita. He is mapping your lineage, your community, your love. But the map he is drawing is not one of kinship, it is one of contagion. Then comes the most horrifying request. The doctor wishes to examine Maita's body, not just look at it. He wants to cut it open. The proposal, when it is translated, sends a wave of revulsion and terror through your people. To desecrate a body in this way, it is a violation beyond comprehension. It is worse than leaving it to the worms. It is an act of supreme evil, a mutilation that would surely shred the Amahi into 1,000 tormented pieces. The elders refuse, their faces masks of grim fury. This is an attack on their ancestors, on their very souls, but the outsiders are persistent. The patrol officers have weapons, loud sticks that can kill from a distance. They do not threaten you directly, but their power is a heavy presence in the air. They offer gifts, steel axes, bags of salt, shiny mirrors, in exchange for cooperation. A tense, terrible negotiation unfolds. The doctor argues, his voice urgent, that understanding Maita's death could stop the others. In the end, worn down by fear of the curse and the imposing presence of these armed strangers, a few of the men reluctantly agree. You cannot bear to watch. You flee to the other side of the village, but you are still aware of the quiet, methodical work being done in the hut. The doctor is performing what he calls an autopsy. He is taking pieces of Maita, not to consume with reverence, but to seal in glass jars and look at with his cold, curious eyes. He takes a piece of her brain, the very part you believe holds the memories, the wisdom, the personality. To you, he has just stolen her soul. In the following days, the outsider's investigation becomes even more intrusive. The doctor wants your blood. He produces a sharp, hollow needle and a glass tube. He wants to take a piece of your life force from you. The terror is immense. What sorcery could he perform with your blood? But the patrol officers are there, their presence coercive, and you submit, turning your head away as you feel the sharp prick in your arm, watching your vibrant red life fill his sterile container. He takes blood from the sick, from the healthy, from the children. He is collecting your community in his little glass jars. You see him sitting by his tent, looking at his charts. The lines connect the eaters to the eaten and the eaters to the sick. For him, the puzzle is becoming clear. He doesn't see love or communion. He sees a transmission vector. He sees a pathogen. The answer, to him, is so simple, so clinical. Your most sacred ritual, the act that defines your relationship with eternity, is, in his eyes, just an unhygienic method of spreading a disease. He looks up from his notes, and his eyes meet yours. There is no malice in his gaze, only a kind of weary triumph. He has found his answer. He has solved his puzzle. He doesn't understand that in finding his simple, scientific truth, he has passed a death sentence on your world. He cannot see the soul, so he does not believe it is there. He and the patrol officers now have what they believe is the cause, the source of all your suffering. And with this knowledge, they now have the justification to act. A new dread settles over you, colder and heavier than the fear of any sorcerer's curse. It is the fear of a people who believe they are saving you, and who will destroy everything you are in the process. The day the world ends, it does not end with a flood or a fire. It ends with a meeting. The head patrol officer, the Kiap, gathers everyone in the center of the village. He stands on a small rise, his arms crossed, his face stern and unyielding. The doctor stands beside him, looking uncomfortable, his gaze shifting between his notes and the faces of your people. Through the translator, the edict is delivered. It is simple. It is absolute. It is final. The practice of consuming the dead is finished, the translator says, his voice flat. This is the cause of the Kuru sickness. By order of the administration, it is now forbidden. This is the law. A stunned silence hangs in the air for a moment, thick and heavy. Then it breaks. The men erupt in a wave of furious guttural shouts. It is an unthinkable intrusion, a declaration of war on their traditions, on their ancestors. But the women's reaction is different. It is a deep, collective intake of breath, a gasp of pure horror and despair. The law is not just an order, it is a damnation. It is a command to betray your dead. The doctor steps forward and tries to explain. He uses his strange words, filtered through the struggling translator. He speaks of invisible things called prions, misshapen proteins that corrupt others, hiding in the body for years before waking up. He speaks of an incubation period and neurological degeneration. His words are sterile, meaningless. He is explaining the mechanics of a clock to a person whose house is on fire. He thinks your tragedy is a puzzle to be solved. He doesn't understand that he is tearing the heart out of your universe and explaining that it's for your own good. The first test of this new law comes immediately. Maeda's body. The patrol officer makes it clear she will be buried. He hands two of the men new steel shovels, symbols of this new era. The act of digging a grave is alien to you. The earth is for yams and roots, a place of life. To put a person in it is an act of obscene waste. You watch as the men, their faces grim and defeated, break the soil. They are not digging a resting place, they are digging a prison. When the hole is deep enough, you are forced to participate in the new ritual. You help wrap Maeda's body not in leaves for a sacred feast, but in a plain sleeping mat for a cold, lonely burial. You carry her to the edge of the clearing. You place her in the damp, dark earth. Each movement feels like a physical blow. You are abandoning her. You are leaving her for the worms and the darkness. You are condemning her spirit to an eternity of terrified, lonely wandering. As the first shovelful of dirt lands on her wrapped form with a hollow thud, a sob escapes your throat. It is a sound of pure, helpless guilt. This is the great betrayal. In the days that follow, a new poison seeps into the village, the conflict between obedience and faith. At night, huddled in the huts, some whisper of defiance. They speak of taking the next person who dies into the deep forest, far from the eyes of the Kiaps, to perform the ritual in secret. It would be a great risk. If you were caught, the punishment would be severe. But how does that compare to the certainty of damning a soul? Your community, once so unified, is now split between those who fear the law of the living and those who fear the wrath of the dead. The outsider's words have tainted everything. The memory of the feast for your grandmother, once a source of comfort and strength, is now a source of anxiety. The warmth you felt inside you, her loving presence, is now something you question. Is it truly her spirit, or is it the doctor's invisible prion army sleeping in your tissues, waiting for the signal to begin its devastating march? The line between love and disease has been blurred, and your own body has become a place of uncertainty. You are afraid of what you carry inside you. The outsiders have not just outlawed your future, they have poisoned your past. The new silence in the village is profound. It is not just the absence of the Kuru laughter, it is the absence of meaning. The chain connecting you to your ancestors has been deliberately, violently broken. They are no longer with you, within you. They are gone, trapped under mounds of cold earth, and you are the ones who put them there. You stand by Maeda's grave, a raw, brown scar on the green landscape. You feel hollow, spiritually bankrupt. You have been forced to choose between the survival of your body and the salvation of your soul, and you are not sure what is left of either. The outsiders walk through your village with an air of satisfaction. They have stopped the spread of a disease. They have saved you. They have no idea that, from where you stand, they have taken away the very thing that made life worth living, leaving you alone in a world suddenly filled with ghosts you can no longer bring home. The years fall away like leaves from a dying tree. You are an elder now, your skin a roadmap of the seasons you have witnessed, your hair the color of the mountain mist. The village is quiet. The terrible, spasmodic laughter of the Kuru victims is a ghost, a sound that only exists in the memories of the old. The last person to die from the shaking sickness passed many years ago, after carrying the seed of the disease dormant within them for almost half a century. The doctor's science was right. The ban worked, the curse is gone. But the silence it left behind is a different kind of haunting. You walk through the village, and the scars of the epidemic are everywhere. There is the grove of graves on the hillside, a permanent somber feature of the landscape that never existed in your youth. Each mound of earth is a testament to a soul you were forced to abandon, a constant nagging ache of guilt. The demographic wound is even deeper. You see it in the family structures, a missing generation of grandmothers, a generation of men who had to learn the women's work of gardening and child-rearing. The stories and skills that should have been passed from mother to daughter were buried in those graves, leaving a void of knowledge that can never be refilled. When someone dies now, the ceremony is a hollow, borrowed thing. Missionaries came after the patrol officers, offering a new God, a new story of a soul's journey. Some have embraced it. You attend the funerals, you listen to their strange prayers and songs of heaven, but it feels like wearing someone else's clothes. Their rituals speak of a distant, unseen paradise. They do not speak of the beautiful, intimate truth you once knew, that the ancestors never leave, that love means they become a part of you. Now, they are simply gone. The world feels larger, colder, and you feel much smaller within it. The scientific truth of the disease is something you have come to understand, in your own way. You know it was not a sorcerer's curse that killed your friends and family. It was something in the flesh, a malformed seed of life that mimicked and destroyed. This knowledge is a cold, hard stone. It explains the how, but it can never touch the why. It can never explain away the love that guided your hands during the feasts. It can never fill the spiritual emptiness left behind. But there is one last, astonishing chapter to the story, a final, ironic twist delivered by the same men of science who ended your world. Years after the epidemic faded, they returned. They studied your blood again, and the blood of your children. They were looking for the legacy of Kuru, and they found something miraculous. They found that within the survivors, within you, the intense pressure of the epidemic had forged a new kind of strength, a change in your very makeup, a genetic mutation that made you immune to the misshapen proteins. This resilience, this G127V variant, as they called it, not only protected you from Kuru, but from all other diseases of its kind. The irony is almost too heavy to bear. The sacred act that nearly wiped you out also acted as a crucible, burning away those who were vulnerable and leaving behind a lineage of survivors with a unique and powerful defense. Your love for your ancestors, the very love that transmitted the disease, is what ultimately armed your descendants against it. You didn't just consume your dead, you learned from them, on a biological level so deep the scientists are still struggling to understand it. Your bloodline carries the story of Kuru, not as a curse, but as a hard-won armor. You sit outside your hut as evening falls, watching the mist roll in, just as you did as a young girl. The world is the same, yet utterly different. The ancestors are silent. The communion is over. You are the bridge between the old world and the new. You carry the memory of the feasts, the weight of the graves, and the secret strength in your blood. You look at the children playing, a generation that will never know the feel of an ancestor's wisdom inside them, but who will live because of the terrible, loving sacrifice of those who came before. The silence is profound, but in it, you can feel the faint, lingering echo of a love that was strong enough to break the world, and resilient enough to build a new one in its place. And so, the story ends. Let the mist of the New Guinea highlands slowly dissolve, taking with it the weight of that history, the sorrow, the impossible choices. The whispers of the ancestors fade, replaced by the soft, steady hum of the fan in your room. Feel the solid presence of your own bed, the gentle weight of your blanket. You are safe in your own time, in your own world. The journey you took was just a story, and now you can let it go. Release the tension from your shoulders. Unclench your jaw. Let your hands rest, open and relaxed. Every breath you take is your own, pulling you further away from that distant mountain village and deeper into your own peaceful rest. The echoes of Kuru laughter fade into the background noise of the night. The memory of the graves softens and blurs. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to solve. Your only task now is to surrender to the quiet pull of sleep. Focus on your breathing, a slow breath in, filling you with calm. A long breath out, releasing the last traces of the story. In and out. Let the rhythm be your anchor, grounding you in this moment of peace. The darkness behind your eyelids is a soft, welcoming curtain. Allow it to grow heavier, more comforting. Allow your mind to drift, to float on the gentle currents of approaching slumber. You are safe, you are comfortable, and you are ready for a deep and restorative sleep. Sweet dreams.